Hello there, Seraph17 once again. This is my Nioh 2 alpha gameplay, and we're going to be taking on the first of the two missions in this. It's called The Beast Born of Smoke and Flames. My character is level 1. This is a character I've been playing with, so this is not from a fresh start. I thought for the purposes of showcasing the demo, it would be a bit more interesting if I had some of the moves. However, my character is still level 1 because I never leveled up when I played on this build. So it's not going to make the entire game a joke or a cakewalk. That said, as you've probably already noticed, this game looks a lot like Nioh, right? Is this Nioh 1.5? Is this Nioh the new DLC? How exactly is this a sequel and in any way new? Well, it's a really good question because what I'm doing right now is low stance strikes, mid stance strikes, and I'm depleting an enemy you've seen before's ki meter using moves that you've done hundreds of thousands of times, right? The whole part of this run is going to be strangely familiar to anybody who's played a whole host of Nioh, because the demo, or the alpha as it is, plays incredibly safe to what your expectations of a Nioh game might actually be. What is new in here is harder to answer than what is old, because a move I just did then is quite new. You now have the ability to combo from triangle back into square with a key damaging move that includes your sheath. However, there have been moves that have used your sheath in the past, so is it technically that new? Potentially not, right? The gradation of what's new in here is kind of slight, so let's talk about the more obvious ones. So, the first thing you'll notice, which is irrefutably new in this alpha for Nioh, is that beneath my ki meter, there is a blue bar that is going up when I'm attacking people. The blue meter has a symbol in the bottom left corner of it, which is a blue symbol, and it signifies the yokai shift, or the yokai tool that I'm using, which is my transformation state. In this game, Living Weapon is slightly different. Instead of turning into kind of an embodied spirit, you're now going to be channeling your power into a yokai, and each of the yokais have got different temperaments and different abilities and different passives, and the usual Nioh fare. I'm using the blue one because I think it looks cool. I personally don't use that mode all that often. It's very powerful and it definitely has its utility. It even has this really interesting essence system, which I like, which seems almost inspired by Ninja Gaiden. And if you remember, in the original Nioh, when you were attacking enemies, there were ways to make them drop the essence, which I forgot the name of exactly what they call it. It's Amrita, right? They were dropping something known as Amrita, which is the currency for leveling up and for doing things in this game. It's this spiritual essence. Well, when you're in the yokai form, when you attack and that stuff is released, you can hold strong attack and it will immediately charge into a fully charged version of that attack, which is these really powerful, interesting, unique moves. And that particular form has a host of interesting properties too. It has a parry, it has other things. You'll have to bear with me here, guys. When I put these weapons on, I'd completely forgot what the buttons were for certain moves, and all I wanted to do then was throw the axe at his foot. But I couldn't remember how you do it, so instead I just ended up stumbling around and getting all the things I didn't want. And I don't want this to be a reflection on these axes. If you've never seen them, guys, they're actually really good. They were a really fun weapon that I used a lot in the alpha because they're the only real new weapon in the alpha, outside of perhaps, pedantry, as I nearly get killed here by the big samurai guy. But that bar also denotes that I have access to some tools that I don't currently have on my character at the moment, which is one of the newer features of the game. That's the move I was trying to get, by the way, where she throws it into the ground. But I was in the wrong stance, so it wouldn't come out and ended up getting hit by everything. I'm going to go back now, open the shortcut, reset at the shrine, and I'm going to trim that out so you don't have to see me running back. But when you kill yokai in this game, they can drop these cores, and the cores themselves have a whole host of interesting properties that will give you passives and advantages and disadvantages potentially. And the big thing about them is that they enable you to use and to summon them into battle for a single-use kind of technique. And each of these techniques takes away from the blue bar. And, for instance, everybody's favourite enemy, you know those flying red skulls that came in different elements, that when you kill them they buffed your sword, but they generally just existed to frame advantage you by touching you when you went to attack them and making you flinch? Well, that particular enemy, nice iframe dog, that enemy, when you get its core, will enable you to fire one of those flaming faces towards an enemy, and when you do it, it will buff your sword with flame, which is a really cool feature. And each of the yokai, including this new one here, each one of these dudes, when you kill them, has a chance of dropping these cores, and these cores all have these unique and interesting applications to them. This character here is called like an Ippodama or something, I don't know his name off by heart. But he has probably the best core move in the demo outside of the Enra's Tornado if you buff with it. Because this guy, not only does he do this big stunning overhead kick that lands on the floor and hits like a truck, that's the move just then that he did, but it also sets people on fire and leaves an area of fire effect. So if you combine his move with your skills and your ability to wreck people's ki, you can put people in a pool of fire, keep them stunned in it, and just gradually do tick damage to them. It's really, really cool. And then another really interesting new feature, as you're seeing right now, is we've entered this shadow realm, this yokai realm, a literal realm where things are a little bit different, and our character has a pair of horns when they're inside of it. When you kill whatever's causing that corruption, it will cure the area of that effect, and then you'll go back to the fully colourful visuals and your normal character. When you're inside of that cloud, inside of that state, there are a bunch of abilities that are both passive that can give you benefits and negatives when you're in there, because it's a completely different environment technically, or the game judges it that way. And the one big thing to note in this alpha is that when you were in those dark realms, the penalty on your ki regeneration was huge. Oh, by the way, this enemy here, it's called a Gaki. This enemy, if there are any other enemies like it near it, when it gets knocked down, they will cannibalize it. They will eat it and become a huge version of themselves, which becomes very dangerous. But this enemy has a really glaring weakness. If you kick them, or if you do ki damage to them, you'll knock them over, and then you can execute them with another one of the new features that's in Nioh 2, which is instead of doing a weapon-based execution, you'll notice my character pulls a dagger from her back and stabs it into them that way. So, lore implications and plenty of story implications for what that's about, but that execution is universal. Every time you do it, she will use the special dagger on the back. And here is a new feature here in this Nioh 1.5 alpha. This is me applying the cause. So the Ippon Datara is the yokai I just killed, and it's the move that I just put up in the top left-hand corner. When I use that, it will decrease the blue bar, and it's all about the ballet of keeping the bar up, using the moves, cashing them in, and dealing as much destruction as you can. The more observant people, who are actually watching the video instead of just listening to it while they play video games, will have noticed that they just saw a blue sword for a Revenant. This is, of course, a cooperative feature in this game. You can now summon friendly Revenants to help you out. The AI on the Revenants, not the best, but they can do a lot of damage and they can open you up to some interesting combo potential. And of course it's just a nice little touch to add to the game that's going to simulate co-op for people that don't have friends. But moving through now, we've gone back into the Dark Realm, and you can see a couple of the Gakis here. There are a lot of dwellers on the roofs throwing bombs. The dweller is a returning character. I know everybody's going to be rejoicing at the fact that he's back. And then as we move up here, there's going to be another one of the Ippon Dataras. I'm probably going to run past this guy because there's a lot of fire. You can use the fire to your advantage to take him on, but you don't need to. This is also a good opportunity if you've got a cannon to practice shooting them. His weak point is his tusks. Whenever he finishes an attack, if you smack him, on his tusk and break it, he will fall down stunned. But when he recovers, he does a jumping slam into the ground, and it will hurt you if you're in it. So you need to be very careful getting too ambitious with him. Much like a lot of the yokai, but the one area that makes him a little stronger is traditionally the yokai like to regenerate their ki first and then they swing, whereas he does a jumping attack as he's regenerating the ki, so that can lead to some pretty awkward situations. So be very careful with that, because that's not so cool. But the stamina needs to be talked about in this, guys, because you're probably not going to get a good idea of what it was like. If anybody remembers the first Nioh Alpha, in the first Nioh Alpha, the stamina was atrocious. It was incredibly strict, and the penalty for running it out was that you stood there like a twat for ages and everything killed you instantly. It was this awkward, unrewarding system of if you even remotely overextended, you were dead. That's just how it worked. And when the full game came out, the stamina didn't work like that. It had echoes of that original system, but they'd worked on it, they'd made it more fluid, made it more intuitive, and made it more fun. So the overall product was just a better experience. It wasn't as strict, and it didn't have the ramifications you can tell the devs wanted. So people really didn't have a problem with stamina management in this game, and there were so many ways to circumvent it with key pulsing and fluxing. And if you're wondering why I'm not doing fluxes and things of that nature, in this alpha you do not get any samurai points outside of leveling up, and because I'm level 1 I will never get access to dodging to key pulse or fluxing, which I think is absolutely disgusting, and I hope the main game doesn't have that because it's going to make level 1 fucking boring and annoying. So I really hope that that's just a feature of the alpha, and that in the main game they still have the samurai locks to help people who don't want to play the game in a conventional manner. But in this room here, there's going to be more of the using the water pots to put out fires that are going to open up new areas, which is one of my favourite aspects of the Nioh level design from the original game. A very cool touch indeed. But as I was saying, folks, the stamina in the alpha was really harsh. It was really, really difficult. And then the main game, it wasn't anywhere as bad. And you can tell from what they're testing in this that Team Ninja want stamina to be important. They want tactics and repercussions for your actions. They want it to be fast, but they want the skillful play to reflect on key usage. And I'm hoping that between the compromises, between the old and the new systems, they're going to manage to get something really, really cool, because I love going to town and comboing and swapping between the styles and weapons and doing crazy, awesome looking stuff. But fundamentally, this game is not a straight-up action game. This game is about more than just that, and less than just that in some ways, because there are a lot of people who think that Nioh shouldn't have stamina and that it would be a better game if it didn't, and it would be a better action game if it didn't, but it would not be this kind of Souls-inspired, tactical, punishing kind of strategic combat systems with a little bit of Ninja Gaiden's DNA in it. One interesting hypothesis I read over on GameFAQs was somebody saying that they believe that stamina should only exist when you're inside the Dark Realm, which I think is a really, really cool concept, and I don't know how they would make that work, but I would imagine that they would change the fluxing and the pulsing and all of those mechanics to, instead of just being something that gives you back stamina and key to enable you to act again, would simply just buff you in other ways, make you faster, make you stronger, so on and so forth. I would even like it if there was a perfect key pulse, because being rewarded for good timing is something that I think all games should aspire to do, because it's the fundamental act of learning them, isn't it? The muscle memory, the precision of what these games are. And right now, I'd forgot my shortcut to get into the room that has the shrine, and it's really simple, guys. All you do is you drop onto the platform where the key is, where I was, and where that Gaki, the big guy, was. Instead of going that way and falling off or whatever it is I did, if you just go opposite where he's standing, you will find where I was supposed to go, and then you'll fall down. See him there? He's just there. Look to my right. See down here? See the hole? This is where I needed to fall. If I'd have done this, I would have got to the shrine and it would have been fine. But I get a little bit confused because the Twilight version of this mission, this door is open, but you have to do more things to activate what you're doing. And now we're free to go and take on the boss. But to kind of put a little bit of a stamp on top of it all, the stamina experimentation is cool because it means that they're thinking about it and they're wanting to make it more interesting. And I can get behind that because it needs to be more interesting. As it stands, it's a cool system, but the game needs to evolve, the game needs to strive forward, it needs to make changes, and this is an incredibly safe alpha. This alpha is so safe, it worries me that it's going to put people off the game because it really hasn't shown enough new things. And here's what I'm really hoping, guys. Here's what I'm fervently wishing for. I'm hoping that this is intentional so that the next time that you see this game, it's going to blow us away and completely subvert expectations. But so far, what it looks like is more Nioh and I don't see that as being that bad of a thing, because I adore this series. I really, really like Nioh. But I can understand people having problems with it, because especially when something like Sekiro's just come out, which is a similar period to this. It's an action game as well. It's got really good production values, you know, really cool looking characters, and it does come across as a little bit copy-pasta, doesn't it? Which, if you know anything about Team Ninja, they are not against the old copy-pasta. In fact, they're specialists of it. They were rehashing games back before people knew to rehash games, so I'm not surprised as much as I might be a little disappointed. This boss is amazing, by the way. I really like this boss. And as you've probably noticed, he has this glaring weakness if you run towards his right-hand side, your left-hand side. You can get behind him, kick him in the back, and then proceed to just keep him staggered. All kinds of fun stuff to be done here, but just be very careful of the tornado he's doing. This tornado move can be interrupted with anything, so if your timing's good enough, you can literally slash it. I like to do it with the caltrops because it makes me feel like Aaron Black, but you can do a whole host of really powerful stuff if you want to stop him from using that move. And I've seen a lot of creative stuff. You can even use the parry with the Odachi. The Odachi has this awesome square parry that tanks a hit, you take no damage, and then you retort, and you can use it to stop the tornado. That's how powerful that move is. There's a lot of really, really strong tech in this demo, and I'm really, really curious to see where it goes. Because I'm hoping whatever the next demo is, if it's a beta, when they let us in again, there's going to be some drastic changes based on feedback. And you just saw me use the ability just then, guys. You haven't really seen me use it too much, because when I'm playing, I kind of get into the old ways. But when I tell you, folks, the key to doing damage in this game at the moment is by using that blue bar and constantly using those moves. And even though this boss is fire, and it's a fire move, the stun that move has is profound. When you hit him with that, you will stop almost anything he does. That's how strong it is. It's really good. Like, look at it. And it does massive key damage. And then I can just proceed to finish him off. And that was it, guys. That was the first of the 2 missions. There is a Twilight version of this mission that I will also be covering in this format so that you can see some Nioh 2 gameplay. Cool mission, though. I really like that one. It reminded me of just how much I like Nioh. And I know that not everybody does, and I know that watching this is probably going to do, as I've mentioned, a lot of harm to people's expectations. But judging from somebody that was, you know, lucky enough to have a cool community who hooked me up with the code to play this, if you're a fan of Nioh, I think we're in safe hands. And as a foundation goes, the foundation is so solid that anything they add on top of it is going to be really, really cool. And I'm hoping, more so than anything else, that they can add so much more to this and give it its own identity, establish it from its peers and from its influences, and truly lean on what makes this game Nioh. I want to see more Ninja Gaiden, I want to see more Nioh, I want to see more Team Ninja doing what they do best, and a little bit less of the people who created games that allowed this to take the influences from. But thank you so much for watching, guys. Enjoy the alpha footage, and as always, you take care now.